everybody. How we all doing? Anyone? Chat? All right. Hi. Here we are. It is day 4 of Music Making Month, live event 3, and things are going well. I hope everyone's been enjoying the month so far. We've got a lot of stuff. If you didn't tune in on Tuesday and Wednesday thinking, well, there's no live events, you've actually missed some stuff. So please do hit our website, because we had a Record You article that was all about recording vocals and producing vocals and perfecting vocals. And the idea was that you've recorded your vocal take, now what, right? There's a whole lot that goes into actually taking your vocal take and making it a finished piece. So check that out. It's a Record You article. It's on our Record You section of our website, but it's also in the Music Making Month section in the event schedule, so you can go there and look for it if that's sort of your central hub for this month. And then on Wednesday, we had a video by our product specialist, Matthias, and he's showing you how you could take loop content and chop up your loop content and sort of get a song going, basically. I mean, a lot of times our hardest thing is to get that first hook or that first little thing that sparks the whole rest of the song. And once you have that, you go for it. Well, loops is a great way to do that. And Matthias shows you a process where he kind of just loads in some loops, almost arbitrarily cuts them up, repackages them, stretches them, reverses some stuff, and it helps him get going on a song. So check that out too. That's also on our Music Making Month website. So, a couple of other things I want to go over, actually. We're going to try a new protocol for this webcast. And that is, someone suggested, and I think it's a good idea, so we'll try it, see if it works. In this chat room, everybody's chatting, and that's great, and everyone should be talking to each other and stuff. But if you have a question that's specifically for Adam, just throw the capital letters question in front of it, right? And then I'll be able to see it, and I can relay it to Adam, and it's kind of just a great way to get above the rest of the conversation. Other things, I wanted to try something. In the beginning of this webcast, we had a little bit of music. That's actually Adam Fielding's music. But what I wanted to try is Music Making Month, so why don't we do this? I want you guys to tweet me, or tweet Propellerhead software. It's Propellerhead SW. That's our tweet handle. I want you to tweet us links to SoundCloud songs that you're making this month. So new music by you. And send us those links, and I'll check them out, and I'll make them the intro music for an event. So when we launch into one of our artist events, if I've got your song, it'll go up. So, but it's got to be new, no cheating. I don't want your best of. I want new stuff. So anyway, we've got a great guest tonight, and his name's Adam Fielding. He's actually, I see some members of our forum in here, and he's a member of our forums, so you guys will already know him, at least in text form. But the basic story of Adam is that Adam is a really talented guy. He was in our forums. He's been a Reason user for a long time, a Record user, and he entered a competition through our site, to a baseline competition. He won some gear with that, and he sort of, as I understand it, the guy has sort of acquired everything he owns musically through winning competitions. He's like a ringer. But he's outfitted a whole studio, and not only did he win those competitions, he ended up essentially winning a record deal with Distinctive Records, who snatched him up, and he's been with them now, I think, for 2 releases, I think that's correct. And he's working on new stuff with them, and he's just very prolific guy. So, enough of me. Let's get to Adam. Adam, thanks for joining us. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing very well, thank you.
And
it's great to.
Go ahead.
It's great to be here. It's great to be able to talk to fellow members of the forum, and well, it seems kind of strange to be showing off a few techniques. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
So our event tonight is actually one of our, I guess it'd be our most complicated to date. Is that fair to say? Adam is going to be operating live without a safety net, walking the tightrope without a safety net. Why don't you tell him what your plan is?
Well, my rough plan at the moment is just to kind of start a track from the ground up, show off a few little percussive techniques and tricks which I've picked up along the years, and just see how it goes from there, really. I'll probably try building a very rough idea for a song around that, And if it doesn't end up sounding horrible, I might upload it. If it ends up sounding horrible, I'll cast it into a volcano and forget it ever happened.
That sounds good. All right. Well, don't worry. It's only a live event that the world is watching, and we're going to later archive. So there's no stakes whatsoever.
Well.
All right. Well, I guess I'm going to step back. You just go ahead and take over, and feel free to tell us what you're doing while you're doing it. And cool. If I see questions coming in from the forum or the chat room, I will relay them to you. All right.
Cool. Right. Well, here we go. I feel like what I should probably do first off is tell you that when I'm using record, I don't tend to use record like a normal person. I tend to use record very much along sort of a similar sort of vein as I would use Reason. I use the 14.2 mixer. What I tend to do is I tend to set up an individual SSL mixer channel strip for each channel and then route that into a 14.2 mixer before sending it to a mastering combinator and then to final audio output. So it's not because I don't really get on with the SSL mixer. It's just because I'm kind of setting my ways using Reason as it is, and I do love using the 14.2 mixer. So yeah, it's just because I'm weird like that. But anyway. Enough talking about my rack. We're going to be talking. I'm just going to start off by coming up with a percussive loop. First thing I'm going to do is just change the tempo to 110 BPM and change the time signature to 5/4 because I like working with odd time signatures, and I thought it might be a bit interesting for this. So
you had told me something, Adam, about the tempo of 110 and why you choose 110 over 127 or 90 or
I don't know. I just fancied working with 110.
Oh, really?
It's kind of a nice middle ground between what I consider. I've always kind of considered breaks to be around sort of 135, more down tempo stuff to be around 90, 95. So 110. If I decide further down the road I want to sort of continue working on it as a down tempo track, I can always lower the tempo. If I want to carry on as sort of a more upbeat breaksy track, I can work to 135. So, but yeah, I basically right now I just fancy working with 110.
All right, so 110 and 5/4. 5/4 is not a very common time signature, right?
No, but I quite like 5/4. It's always kind of a trick to write any sort of drum line that's in 5/4 time that sounds natural, but you can always tell if you've sort of written a decent drum line if it's in 5/4 time, if it just sounds natural and people don't immediately go, wow, that's a really weird time signature. If people just listen to it and think that sounds really good, then I like to think, I've done an all right job. So, and plus I just like to make life hard for myself. So
just stack it against yourself, put the pressure on. It's not enough to do something live, but let's do something in the wrong time signature, or not wrong time signature, but you know what I mean.
There's nothing wrong about 5/4.
An off-putting time signature.
Yeah. Something else I should probably mention about my rack, which a few people might have noticed already, is by default I tend to have 3 RV7000s patched into 2 separate aux sends on the 14.2 mixer. One of these RV7000s is the main reverb, which I'll use in the song, and the other 2 RV7000s I use one per channel. Or just simple delays, really. I could use the ping pong delay with the RV7000, but I just like to be able to use one per channel. I've also got another combinator, which I tend to use a lot as a third aux send, which is a sort of degrading tape delay, which I used all over the place on light fields, and it's a very satisfying but quite volatile sound if you just sort of crank up the damage, because basically it's a feedbacking delay, but every time the feedback is sent back into the delay unit, it goes through a tape screen, which just further degrades the signal more and more. So if you turn the damage up very slightly, you can end up with sort of huge washes of sound, and it's a lovely sound, but it's also a bit unpredictable. So I thought I'd just skip over it today, because the last thing I'm sure people want to be listening to is just a massive feedback wash. But,
is that so? What is the unpredictable thing? You just don't know at what point it goes over?
Well, I mean, very, very small adjustments to the damage controls have huge effects on the overall sound. So if I just decided to sort of automate the damage very slightly, it could just cause it to freak out, and I'd end up with sort of massive rumbling in the background or a massive wash of sound. So yeah, it's a great effect, but I'm just Not today, not today. um, but uh, but the first thing I'm going to do anyway, with regards to this actual song, is I'm going to create a combinator which is going to have its own chord channel. What I tend to do with drums is I'll set up a separate drum mix, but I'll have it all contained within one combinator. The reason for that is you can skin the combinator. So I'm going to skin it with a redrum skin, which I've been using for years and years. It's quite a simple skin, and it's not particularly pretty to look at. But if you're scrolling through a rack, a ridiculous, massive rack that's just full of instruments, and you see that, you immediately know where your drums are, and I get lost quite easily. So, so inside that combinator, I'm going to create another 14.2 mixer, which I'll be routing to the combinator's output. And I'll be routing the combinator channel here directly to the master 14.2 mixer. So now I've got this separate drum submix ready to go, and I can spot it a mile off. And if it gets crazy complicated while I'm working on the song, I can always just fold it up and carry on working. It's a nice little sort of workflow trick, really. And I do tend to get a bit carried away if I'm working on a particularly big project. The rack will just get insane. So it's good to be able to fold entire submixes away and just be able to find them at a glance if you need to. So I've just created a Dr. Rex here, which is routed to channel 1 of my drum submix, which is going back to the master mix here. And this is going to form the basis of a little sort of percussive idea. So I'm going to load a factory sound bank patch into this Dr. Rex. Now I've just got to find one that I like the sound of. That's not bad, but I like something with more hats. Yeah, that'll do. So we've got this loop here, which is a Prince board loop. So that's nice and usable. There's plenty of hats going on, some nice dry bass drum and snare samples ready to use. I'm going to turn off enable loop playback because I'm not going to be using any sort of playback on the Dr. X except for triggering individual slices in the sequencer. One of the first things I'm going to do here is you see here there's the velocity, amp velocity amount knob here. I'm going to turn that right up. So when I'm sequencing individual slices in the sequencer, I can change the amplitude of each slice by just changing the velocity. So it's just a lot easier to work that way for me, instead of having to, it's just easy control over the actual amplitude of each slice without having to automate the volume. So that's ready to go. So I'll go into the sequence, and it helps if I create a track for the Dr. Octo Rex. So if I just draw a couple of bars here, zoom in. So right, let's get a drum loop going. Yeah, to be honest, I'm not entirely sure how I want this song to turn out. So if it sounds terrible, I apologize. So
we will forgive you.
Here we go. Right.
And Adam, is that completely random placement?
Yeah, well, not completely random. I thought, I'd stick to using sort of 16th notes and just stick to it on a sort of beat by beat basis. So on a half beat by half beat basis. So I'm probably going to be adding some sort of percussive quirks and flourishes here and then, but I just want to get a basic beat down. So every single hit is the same length. So let's hear how that sounds. That's nice. That last hi-hat is it takes me off guard, so I might just... Right, here we go. I'll just turn the click on as well.